8 years. In the world of humans, that can feel like an incredibly short time. But in the world of tech, it's practically an eternity. In 2017, we saw the launch of the iPhone X, the SNES Classic, the Nintendo Switch, and a new version of the Wacom Intuos Pro. And here we are, 8 years later, and only now have we seen a Nintendo Switch 2 and a new version of the Wacom Intuos Pro. So what happens when you wait 8 years to update a product? Things get smaller, and yet bigger, better, and maybe worse, and a lot more customizable. So this is the new Wacom Intuos Pro in the medium size, and if you're familiar with the previous version, it's a pretty drastic change. Gone are the bezels from the 2017 version, and the buttons and dials have moved. The entire device is thinner and physically smaller than the previous version, and yet it picks up some ergonomic benefits. Look close at this incredibly thin tablet and you'll notice that it's actually thicker on one side to the other, giving the top surface a subtle tilt. That makes laying your hand on the tablet to draw just a little bit more comfortable. But while normally smaller isn't necessarily a good thing with a drawing tablet, it's not as much as a detriment as you might first imagine. The drawing surface is honestly a little bit bigger than the previous Intuos Pro, despite the overall dimensions shrinking. That comes in part by ditching the bezels, and to be honest, some people might not like that. If you work close to the edges, you won't have any bezel space to keep you from going on the edge or off the edge like you did with the 2017 model. Instead, you'll hit the lip and maybe stop at that or maybe just swipe right off the tablet. It's an adjustment to make. The surface texture is nice and feels almost like paper. There's some texture there, but it's honestly just enough to give you the kind of tactile feedback you want without feeling too smooth or rough. And of course, you can swap out the surface sheet if it ever wears down. If you want to customize that, though, you're currently out of luck. It's one size fits all or one texture fits all. Still, it's nice that Wacom continues to support longevity. If you like to take your drawing tablet with you traveling, the smaller size is actually a bonus, as is all the connectivity options. You can, of course, connect and charge the tablet over the included USB-C cable, and I appreciate Wacom throwing in a USB-C to USB-A adapter, but Bluetooth is baked in as well, and as someone who tries to avoid cords cluttering up my space, that's a welcome inclusion. And happily, I honestly didn't notice any lag over Bluetooth compared to the wired connection. Wacom says you'll get about 16 hours of use on battery, and to be honest, I've never managed to fully test that claim. When I'm not using the tablet, I plug it in, and it lasts far longer than I ever need wirelessly on a single session. Wacom also moved the buttons from the side, when looking at the tablet horizontally, to the top. I think this will be another change that some people will love and some will hate. You can change the orientation of the tablet, of course, and Wacom's software supports that. But now, if you put the buttons on the side, you'll be in a portrait mode. I'm honestly not totally sold on top positioning either. With the side position, you can rest your hand near the buttons while using the pen with your other hand. But trying to do that with the buttons at the top position leads to your other hand getting in the way. Putting the buttons on bottom is probably the best compromise if you want your tablet in a horizontal position. Speaking of those buttons, or as Wacom calls them, the express keys and dial, they're pretty handy when you do get them in a good position. You can change out what they do based on the program you're actively working in, or you can use them to call up an on-screen radio dial filled with your most common commands for an app. That might mean having your preferred brushes or overlay options, even some simple commands like redo. This isn't new, of course, but Wacom's software continues to be one of the best parts of its drawing tablets. And the radio dial does help avoid needing to press buttons at all, which is a good thing if you don't like where they're now placed and you don't want to use your keyboard, if you want to keep things moving along quickly. The dial is very clicky, and as a fidgeter, I admit I sometimes just spin it for fun. And it's nice that the express keys can be customized on a per app basis. How I use them in Photoshop is of course different than how I'd use them in Premiere. And yes, this tablet works with Premiere, though clip manipulation takes a bit of a steady hand. It is faster than switching back and forth between keyboard and mouse though, especially if you program the keys for some of the more common functions. Wacom also included its new Pro Pen 3, and to me, this is the real star of the show. It of course has all the usual spectacular specs you'd expect from Wacom, including 8,000 levels of pressure and tilt capability. But most people are very particular about pens and styluses with tablets, and it's not uncommon to end up with 3 or 4 just for different purposes. Tips, general feel, the way it works. The Pro Pen 3 kind of solves that in an all-in-one package because it's customizable. Consider this for a moment. Do you prefer your stylus to have no buttons or to have 3? You can do that. The previous pens had a sort of flared grip to them like this, and whether you loved or hated that, you can customize the new pen to your preference with the included grip options. It can have the flare or you can get rid of it. You can, of course, swap out the tips to get the drag you prefer. And Wacom hid this clever little weight system in the pen so you can choose how the pen balances in your hand. Flip it this way or that to change where the heaviest part of the pen is, and you can instantly change its balance. Or if you want, remove it all together to make a light pen. I also appreciate the tiny little touches, like the stand doubling as a spare tip storage and a removal tool. But if you're thinking to yourself, I love my old pen and I just want to use that with the new tablet, I have good news for you. Chances are, even if it's a third-party pen, your old pen will work with this new tablet. It's compatible with the previous Pro pens and EMR pens. And if you have more than one, you can program settings for each pen, although all EMR pens will share the same settings. Overall, this is a solid entry in Wacom's lineup and a worthy successor to the previous model. Not every change is going to please everyone, of course, but none of the changes feel like something Wacom made without thought and care. There's probably not enough here to make it worth upgrading if you already own the previous model. That is until Wacom stops offering replacement Surface Sheets for the 2017 version. But if you're looking for your first drawing tablet, this might be the one. It's affordable-ish, depending on the size you buy, customizable, and even mildly repairable. That's it for now, but if you stuck around this long, you must have seen something you like. Would you consider subscribing to the channel or becoming a member? Members are getting some extra special perks in an upcoming video. Thanks for watching, and until next time, bye!